5,000 years of civilization, 23 nations, one land. Imagine standing on the deck of a Persian trade ship. The air tastes of salt and cinnamon. The strait so narrow you can see both shores. 21 million barrels of oil every single day through these 33 kilometers. Right now, not a single tanker gets through. Oil at 110, the Strait of Hormuz is closed. But here is the irony. This story was started by a man who freed slaves, not enslaved them. A clay cylinder. 25 centuries ago, the first words about human freedom were pressed into this clay. If you held it, it would fit in the palm of your hand. To understand why the world is choking today, you need to fly over this land. From the ruins of Persepolis in the north to the narrow throat in the south. Not the country in the headlines, the civilization behind it. This is a story 5 millennia in the making. By the end, you will see the exact moment it all collapsed. We will show it from both sides of the water, through the eyes of those who fired and those who burned. The gates are opening. There is a land where the world's oldest empires rose and fell, where the first declaration of human rights was carved into clay, where poets wrote verses that still echo across continents, and where, for 5,000 years, every great power on earth has tried and failed to ignore its existence. This is Iran. Not the country in the headlines, the one that history remembers. Long before anyone spoke of Persia, a civilization thrived on the Iranian plateau. The Elamites built the great ziggurat of Chokepoint around 1250 BC. It still stands today, 7 centuries older than the Parthenon. They developed their own writing system, independent of Mesopotamia. They waged wars against Babylon and Assyria, and they left behind a mystery, a language no linguist can fully connect to any known family. The Iranian plateau was never empty, and it was here that the world's first superpower would emerge. 550 BC, a tribal leader named Cyrus united the Medes and the Persians and changed the world. Within 20 years, Cyrus the Great built the largest empire in human history, from the Aegean Sea to the borders of India. But Cyrus did something no conqueror before him had done. When he conquered Babylon in 539 BC, he did not enslave its people. He freed the Jews from captivity. He let the conquered keep their religions, customs, and languages. No conqueror before him had done this, ever. The Cyrus Cylinder, a clay document from Babylon's ruins, is often called the first charter of human rights. Historians debate this. Many argue Cyrus acted from calculation, not idealism, that the cylinder was propaganda, not a declaration. But the fact remains. In a world where the conquered were destroyed, Cyrus offered an alternative. It outlived him by 25 centuries. His successors built Persepolis, one of the ancient world's greatest capitals. They laid the royal road, 2,700 kilometers, with relay stations that carried a message across the empire in 7 days. The first postal system, standardized weights, measures, and currency across dozens of cultures. And then they ran into Greece, Marathon, Thermopylae, Salamis. But for Persia, it was a frontier skirmish. In 330 BC, Alexander of Macedon conquered Persia. He burned Persepolis. But here is what most people don't know. Alexander didn't destroy Persian culture. He adopted it. He wore Persian clothes, married a Persian princess, tried to merge 2 worlds. His empire shattered, but Iran didn't. The Parthian Empire rose from the ashes, 500 years fighting Rome to a standstill, undefeated. Then came the Sasanians, the last great Persian empire before Islam. They gave the world chess, polo, and the concept of the centralized state. Their influence on Islamic civilization cannot be overstated. In 651 AD, the Sasanian Empire fell to Arab Muslim armies. This is often presented as the end of Persian civilization. It was actually its rebirth. They couldn't defeat the armies. They transformed the culture from within. Within 2 centuries, Iranians became the intellectual engine of Islamic civilization. Al-Khwarizmi gave us algebra. His name from Khwarezm, the Persian-speaking world. The word algorithm from his name. Avicenna, Ibn Sina. His medical canon used in Europe for 600 years. Persian. Rumi, the best-selling poet in America today, wrote in Farsi. And then came the Mongols. In 1219, Genghis Khan invaded. Cities like Nishapur were erased. Medieval chroniclers reported hundreds of thousands killed. Modern historians consider the figures exaggerated, but the scale of catastrophe was real. Severed heads stacked in pyramids. The ground plowed over so nothing would remain. But Iran survived. Again. This is the most important chapter for understanding modern Iran. In 1501, Shah Ismail declared Shia Islam the state religion. Until then, Iran was Sunni, like most of the Muslim world. The conversion was enforced, but the result was transformative. For the first time in 9 centuries, Iran had its own religious identity. The Ottoman Empire west, the Mughals east, both Sunni. Between them, Iran, Shia, separate. Isfahan, the Safavid capital, became one of the most beautiful cities on earth. The saying went, Isfahan is half the world. Its mosques, bridges, and bazaars drew travelers from across the globe. By the 1800s, Iran was caught between the British Empire from the south and Russia from the north. This was the great game, and Iran was the board. In 1908, they struck oil, the first major discovery in the Middle East. The company that would become BP was born. Iran's oil fueled the British Navy. The profits went to London. In 1953, Prime Minister Mossadegh nationalized the oil industry. British MI6 and the American CIA orchestrated a coup. Both governments later officially acknowledged this. This is the most consequential moment in Iran-Western relations. Everything that followed, the revolution, the hostages, the nuclear standoff, traces back to 1953. February 1st, 1979, Ayatollah Khomeini returned from 15 years of exile. Millions in the streets. Within weeks, the Shah's government collapsed. A 2,500-year monarchy replaced by a theocratic republic. Then, the Iran-Iraq War, 8 years. Saddam Hussein's Iraq, backed by the US, the USSR, and most Arab states, invaded Iran. About 1 million dead. Chemical weapons against soldiers and civilians. Iran fought largely alone. The scars of that war, a defining memory for an entire generation. After Khomeini's death, Khamenei became supreme leader. 36 years between isolation and calculation, sanctions, the nuclear question. But inside, a society of contradictions. One of the most educated in the Middle East. More female than male university students. Award-winning cinema. 70% of the population, under 40. Regionally, Iran built a network of allies in Lebanon, Iraq, Syria, Yemen, Gaza. You have just walked through 5,000 years of Persian memory. Ziggurats, Persepolis, Isfahan, tanks in the streets of Tehran. Close your eyes Imagine you are standing in Isfahan, the turquoise tiles of the Sheikh Lutfollah Mosque. Sunlight falls through the dome. Dust dances in the light, like gold coins. 400 years ago, travelers said, Isfahan is half the world. Alexander burned Persepolis. The Mongols leveled Nishapur. The Arabs brought a new faith. But within 2 centuries, Iranians were writing algebra in Arabic. They swallowed their conquerors whole. But there is one detail. Fly south from Isfahan, over the mountains, across the desert, and after 700 kilometers, you hit a strip of water. So narrow you can see both shores from a ship. That strip of water turns everything you have just seen from a cultural story into a geopolitical weapon. You are back on deck. The same salt, the same cinnamon. But now you know. Under this turquoise water, cables carrying the internet. Beyond the horizon, nuclear reactors. And the tanker you are standing on carries 20% of the planet's oil. The Strait of Hormuz. 20% of the world's oil passes through it every single day. Close it, and within a week, factories stop. Flights cancel. Governments fall. The civilization you just met, it sits on top of the world's jugular vein, and every empire in history has tried to control it. The first to understand the power of this strait were the Persians. The Achaemenid Empire, the largest the world had ever seen. Darius the First built the first naval fleet in the Persian Gulf. He controlled both shores of the strait. Through the strait came spices from India, silk from China, frankincense from Arabia. Whoever held the strait held world trade. Pearls from Bahrain, copper from Oman, teak from India. The strait was an artery, and the Persians held it in their fist. The same route today's oil tankers follow. Only the cargo has changed. But every empire that held the strait believed, this is forever. None of them were right. Then Alexander came. Persia fell, but the strait remained. And the next master was already coming. The Arabs, the Islamic conquest. A new faith, but the same strait. The port of Saraf became the Dubai of the 8th century. Arab navigators went further than anyone, through the strait, to India, Malacca, China. Sinbad was not a fairy tale. He was the composite portrait of 1,000 captains. Baghdad's golden age was fed by trade through this strait. Close it then, and the House of Wisdom would never have existed. The Mongols destroyed Baghdad in 1258. The golden age went dark, but the strait kept working. Trade found new masters. 1507. Afonso de Albuquerque, a Portuguese admiral, the man who decided the entire Indian Ocean would belong to Portugal. He wrote to his king, "If I take Hormuz, I take the world." He stormed the island, built a fort, and for 130 years, Portugal controlled all trade in the Indian Ocean. The fort on Hormuz Island. Red stone walls baking in 50-degree heat. The smell of gunpowder and cloves. The island of Hormuz became one of the richest ports in the world. Travelers called it a jewel in the ring of the ocean. Every ship passing through the strait paid a toll to Portugal. Control, absolute. But Persia never forgot. In 1622, Shah Abbas decided to take the strait back. And he made one decision that would haunt Persia for 300 years. He hired the English East India Company, promised them trade privileges. The English sent ships. He called the English for help. Together they expelled the Portuguese. Persia reclaimed the strait, but the English didn't leave. They stayed for 300 years. Shah Abbas's decision brought the British Empire to the Persian Gulf. 1908, they struck oil in Iran. the first major discovery in the Middle East. The company that would become BP was born. Winston Churchill, 1911. He converted the Royal Navy from coal to oil. British ships became faster, but now they depended on one strait. Whoever controls Hormuz controls the world's energy. This was true in 1911. It is true today. World War I. Oil decided everything. Tanks, planes, ships, all on Persian Gulf oil. The strait became a matter of life and death. World War II, same story. Rommel raced for the oil. Japan attacked Pearl Harbor over an oil embargo. The strait, worth its weight in gold. Britain drew borders, created emirates, installed rulers, all to keep oil flowing through the strait. Then, 1953. The CIA and MI6 overthrew Iran's Prime Minister Mossadegh for trying to nationalize the oil, the very oil that flowed through the strait. The Shah of Iran, a puppet after the coup. 26 years. Oil flowed. The West was happy. Iranians were not. 1979. Revolution. Khomeini. Islamic Republic. And the new Iran's first words about the strait. This is our weapon. Every event on this strait echoes the last. Oil, 1908. Coup, 1953. Revolution, 1979. And what is happening right now? 1980. Iraq attacked Iran. 8 years of war. And both sides started sinking tankers in the strait. 546 attacks on commercial vessels. Missiles, mines, torpedoes. Oil burned on the water. Insurance companies refused to cover ships. Crews refused to sail. The world's oil, hostage to two countries at war with each other. America intervened. Operation Earnest Will, escorting tankers under U.S. Navy protection. For the first time, American warships in the strait permanently. May 17, 1987. USS Stark, an American frigate. An Iraqi Exocet missile hit the ship. 37 American sailors died. Iraq apologized. America accepted. Because Iraq was fighting Iran. July 3, 1988. Captain Will Rogers III, commander of the cruiser USS Vincennes. His radar showed an object ascending from Iran. The radar screen of USS Vincennes. Green glow, a blip ascending. 300 people in the plane returning home from Mecca. The captain sees the blip. He has 30 seconds. He ordered fire. 2 missiles. Target destroyed. It was Iran Air Flight 655. 290 people. A passenger plane. 290 people. 66 children. The United States never apologized. Captain Rogers received a medal. Iran never forgot and never forgave. Since then, the U.S. Navy's 5th Fleet has been based in Bahrain, permanently. Carriers patrol the strait year-round. The Persian Gulf became an American lake. Every time Iran speaks about the strait, it remembers Flight 655. Every threat to close Hormuz echoes that day. 2019. Attacks on tankers in the strait. Drones. Mines. No one claims responsibility. The world grows nervous. Iran seized the British tanker Stena Impero, right in the strait, in front of the whole world. The message was clear. Houthis from Yemen started attacking commercial ships in the Red Sea. Drones, missiles. Global trade tried to avoid the strait, but there were no alternatives. 2023, Gaza. 2024. Direct missiles, Iran-Israel. 2025, a 12-day war. The strait trembles. January 2026. The largest protests in Iran since 1979. The regime shaken. Khamenei hiding in a bunker. The the world held its breath. 33 kilometers of water, 70 years of American carriers, 1,000 years of Persian memory, and it all converges on one point. Operation Epic Fury. The US and Israel launched joint strikes on Iran. Nuclear facilities, oil refineries, military infrastructure. Supreme Leader Khamenei killed on day one. His son Mojtaba appointed successor. Iran does not surrender. It retaliates. Iran responds. Closes the Strait of Hormuz. For the first time since 1988. 20% of the world's oil blocked. For the first time since the 70s, the world faced a real oil crisis. Lines at gas stations, panic in supermarkets, governments burning through reserves. The IEA called it the greatest challenge to global energy security in history. 33 kilometers of water. That's all it takes. Oil, $110 per barrel. Gas prices double. Flights canceled. Markets crash. 500 ballistic missiles. 2,000 drones. Iran strikes Israel and Gulf bases. Hezbollah opens a second front. Day 26 of the war. Iran rejects the ultimatum. Demands 5 conditions for ceasefire. The strait is closed, and no one knows. For how long? In the 25th century BC, they shipped spices through this strait. In 2026 AD, oil. Only the cargo changed. The stakes are exactly the same. I stood on these shores when Persian galleys passed. I saw Portuguese caravels, British dreadnoughts, American carriers. The Persians believed the strait was a gift from the gods. The Portuguese, a path to world domination. The British, a key to empire. The Americans, a guarantor of stability. They were all wrong. The strait belongs to no one. It outlasted every one of them, and it will outlast the next. Iranian missiles, 33 kilometers of water, 2,500 years of blood, and none of them was the last. As promised, here is what the strait looks like today. Albuquerque's fort still stands on Hormuz Island. Red walls, cannons. Tourists walk where the world's trade was once controlled. And across the strait, aircraft carriers. The Portuguese believed the strait was a path to world domination. The British, a key to empire. The Americans, a guarantor of stability. They were all wrong. 5,000 years, Elamites, Persians, Greeks, Arabs, Mongols, Portuguese, British, Americans, each carved their name in stone. The stone remained. The names wore off. None of them were. Oil at 110. The strait is closed. Missiles in the air. The oldest civilization on Earth and the narrowest chokepoint in the world. Locked in the same 33 kilometers of water that smelled of salt and cinnamon 25 centuries ago. A palace can be burned in a single night. A strait can be closed in a single hour. But a civilization that swallowed every one of its conquerors cannot be destroyed by anything. The past never stays buried. Subscribe. The chronicler has more to show.